Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, there's something about the web series space which is kind of gloriously allowing creators to, well, to be frank, kind of not give a fuck. And I love it. But if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm gonna make a leap and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Gives you a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel, so you can give us a like and subscribe there as well. We would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the TikTok, and we're on the Letterboxd for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because, you know, if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us the kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one. It is a web series, as we said in the beginning, and with the Canadian Screen Awards kicking off this week, it is a web series Tokens, and it's up for Canadian Screen Awards, and it's hilarious. It really is hilarious. It really sort of speaks to the push that has happened in recent years for diversity in casting, and kind of the hilarity that comes into that as we see productions trying to meet those diversity quotas. It has won a bunch of awards. Like I said, it is up for 4 Canadian Screen Awards this coming week. It's satire at the highest level, because it's funny, it's hilarious, but it's also kind of shockingly true all at the same time. And I mean, it's available online. We'll tell you where it is in various spots, but it's worth checking out, man. Hand to God, it is worth checking out. But in advance of the awards this week, we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with 2 of the stars. The one and only Connie Wang and the one and only Sedina Fiati, to talk about sort of the nature of the show and their role therein. But that's about it. I mean, we're gonna post where you can find tokens in the description below, so definitely go check out this hilarious show. But first off, enjoy our talk with Connie and Sedina. Because quite frankly, it is a damn good one. And just remember, with Canadian Screen Awards happening all this week, there is so much fantastic content out there, and we cannot speak fantastically enough of some of the really great stuff that's happening in the web series world. But that's enough of me rambling. Check out Tokens where you can, wherever short content is available. Watch this show, because it is just a hell of a lot of fun. But first, enjoy our talk with Connie and Sedina, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. Now, on that spirit, obviously, let's rock it. But I mean, thank you both so much for the time today, and congratulations on the show. I mean, season 2, like, I absolutely loved it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Now, I guess the first $1 million question is, because I mean, this show is so presciently funny that it's kind of sad in many ways, but I mean, it's still very funny. I'm kind of curious to both of your reactions when you first sort of read the material and read for this show, because I mean, again, it's one of those things where if you know how funny this actually is, because it's actually incredibly true.
Yeah, for sure. You go ahead, Connie.
Okay. Yeah, so when I first read, like, so season 1, which was around 2017, I read it and I just thought, it's so simple. It's very simple. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then as I was shooting it, I think I was starting to figure out the tone. And I remember working with the other actors, and one of the actors come up to me like, what is this the right tone? Is this the right? Like, he's like, am I doing it right? And I thought that was so hilarious because it was like, yeah, we were all just kind of figuring out the tone of it and eventually getting like the humor while we were performing.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, I read it and I thought it was the premise from the beginning, because I was introduced to the premise in 2017. I was co-chair of Actors Diversity Committee, and Winnie and Connie both came to me, and Connie was really active on the committee too. And they were like, okay, we're trying for the Independent Production Fund. And at that time, for the IPF, which has since shifted, thankfully, you had to like put together a really fun trailer and get a lot of views. You know what I mean? And that was one of the ways they were going to decide if they were going to give you funds. And so, yeah, I remember watching the premise and I thought it was hilarious. And true, as you said, David, it's over the top, but there is so much truth in it. Um, there's so much truth, I think, in the franticness around trying to check a box around diversity, inclusion, equity, instead of actually just taking the time to think about what it meaningfully actually is for a production and how it can play out in a really meaningful and impactful way, is just this like, ooh, we got to find somebody. We got to find somebody quick.
yeah.
We have to fulfill, we don't want to look like bad people, And then in terms of like, I think it's so much informed by Winnie's experiences in the business and the things that she's seen within her like longish career, in different aspects of the industry, and just it definitely bears making fun of in as many ways as we can, because I think humor is such a gateway to understanding the issues in a more meaningful way.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. And I mean, there's something about what Winifred has done here, because I mean, there's a chaos to the entertainment industry that I mean, I can imagine you guys have the same problem I've had in many ways. If you try to explain it to people, it doesn't make any sense. This is the first show I've seen that that kind of makes sense of that chaos. And I mean, I'm kind of curious on your perspectives on, obviously it's over the top, but can you sort of gauge or like sort of explain how true it actually is?
I would say that it's pretty true. And if anything, like with tokens, and if anything, like working, I've been on even more chaotic sets.
Right.
It really depends on, because I think it starts off with like the producers, right? The executive producers and the decisions that are happening there. And if they're all over the place and they don't know, it just trickles down the line. And then as actors, you just get it. You're like, oh, what's my line? Oh, they completely changed the script. Okay, 1 sec, I'll just wait. Like, oh wait. So I was recently just on a set like last month, and it literally was just like minute by minute, we don't know what we're doing, so let's just all cool it. And it was hilarious because I was just like improvising the whole time that day, because I was like, oh well. Yeah, but you said that.
There's certain things that are not chaotic, and then there's a lot of things that are. There is a lot, I think, just because of this crunchiness of production timelines, because there's just so much, like, when we talk about like the development phase of a project, it's just like that is the slowest phase, because you're just trying to find the funds and find all the pieces. But then once you put all the pieces together, it just seems like it's like the train leaves the station, and like it's a lot. So I think it can be, as you said, Connie, it really depends on the leadership and the tone that they set and how organized they are and how thoughtful they are. But from a diversity and inclusion, social justice perspective, which is something that I also work in, there's not as much you can do once production has started, which I think is hilarious about tokens, right? Because they're trying to fix things in the moment where you're like, no, you would have had to go back to the story. What are you telling? who are you hiring? Like, you would have had to make those decisions before we got to set. So by the time you get to set, it's a bit too late to do much of anything. I mean, you can do some things, but like if the foundation wasn't there, then it's just like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, there's definitely a certain amount of chaos in production. I think it's just because of like having to do a lot within a very specific timeline. You know, it's like, we got to get this done. And then I think as well, I actually don't know that there needs to be that level of anxiety, chaos, all the things, but I think that as time goes on, maybe we could all, especially those who are in leadership, do better at trying to minimize those kinds of attitudes.
Yeah.
In terms of planning. But when that doesn't happen, like especially as actors, we're just like, we just go with the flow. You're just like, you hope for the best, but like you're just like, there's a radical acceptance about being an actor, because you're like, there's not much I can change. Like I have control over my performance and the way that I show up, and that's as much as I have power over.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I mean, I've got to imagine, because I mean, obviously, on one end, you're both working actors, and I mean, as sort of the day-to-day reality of a working actor, there's going to be jobs where you're just there because it's a job. You'll do your part, you'll leave, and that'll be fine. But it feels like this space of web series, and especially short films and things like that, definitely allow for sort of that creative satisfaction. Can you guys talk about sort of the importance of having material like this, just even from a sort of a creative engagement standpoint, from both of you as actors and storytellers?
For sure. I feel like shorts and web series, which are both like short forms within the media industry, these, as you said, David, they're such a great space of creativity. And even for Winnie, who's like very much a working director, you know, Tokens, I feel like, is such a great creative and political to social justice outlet for her to say the things she wants to say. So yes, like, you don't often show up to a web series or a short film for the paycheck, because it's not, if there is one, it isn't very big. And if there isn't one, you would still do it anyway, because oftentimes those are the projects that can be the most impactful, of really like sort of the alignment of creativity and like amazing people you want to work with. There's a theory that I'll put out there in the world, like around the 3 Ps, which is like people, profit, and project. And so like, it's ideally you'll have 2 of them,
Right.
You know, so there'll be great people and you're getting paid really well, or it's a great project and you're not being paid well, but there's also great people. So it's just this like, the web series short film space can often be the space where it's a great project and there's great people and it's just so memorable. But for Connie, I mean, it's been so great for your career, for Winnie to just be bold and cast you as the lead, you know, being like, we want like an East Asian lead, not secondary character. But yeah, I'll leave it to you to talk about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I actually met Winnie like in 2015 or 2016, like years ago. And she came up to me at a Women in Directors Chair party. I was there, like, I was pretty active on with ACTRA, and I was invited to the event. And then Winnie came up to me and she's like, "You look like you're really funny." I'm like, "I am." And she's like, "And are you like an actress?" And I was like, "I am." She's like, "Wow, I think we need to meet. Like, we need to have a coffee or something, because I have this idea." And then she pitched me Tokens, that's like one sentence. And then we started having more conversations around it. And then she actually wrote it with like me in mind, which I thought was such a blessing, especially as like a young emerging actress with very little credits at the time. You know, I was in my like like mid 20s. And so that was really wonderful. And I think she actually wrote, how I see it, that she wrote it with like her perspective, but then also mine. And so together, Sammie Pang is like an amalgamation of the both of us. So that was really wonderful. And I also remember relaying a lot of information, like my experience on sets, for Winnie, so that she knew too. So when she was writing, it was coming from an authentic place. So then when we were actually, you know, doing the project and performing in art, like, I found my creativity I was just so there already. Like, I was just like, yeah, this is like our story. This is everyone's story. Let's go. So it felt really fulfilling in that way, as, you know, in web series. as an
Well,
actor.
and I mean, that's the other thing, because I mean, you'd never think of web series not only just getting a season two, but getting sort of brought up in conversation for all these awards in the space, like the Canadian Screen Awards. Like for both of you, is it a little surreal to have this very sort of personal, but also very sort of relevant and hilarious project sort of being in that kind of conversation?
It's definitely surreal.
Definitely. Yeah.
Awards are so like, what do they even mean? Because it's like, who's the best? Who's decided? Like I don't, and I feel like Kate Blanchett even said that recently when she won an award. She was just
Yeah.
like, you're all amazing. You know what I mean? For everyone who has to do commercials and all of those things, you're amazing too. So I just want to put that out there in the space. But it's still, but more than one thing can be true at once. And so I actually just feel so honored to have been put forward by Tokens to be nominated, and then to be nominated even further. It's just as like, it's actually just feels like such an honor. And I'm glad that the Canadian Screen Awards has a space for web series within, within the categories of things that they honor, because I think it's an important form in Canada, um, as a short, like it's a short form, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there is actually, we're really lucky in Canada that there's funding for it. So there's funding. Like Tokens was funded by Telefilm, and then in second seasons it was funded also by the Canada Media Fund and the Bell Media Fund. And so there's like, we're really lucky that we can apply and get this and like make something artistic that really speaks to the things we want to say, so yeah, it is surreal, and I'm still like, okay, I'm just taking it all in, and just feel really honored.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for me, I'm just like, because it's Tokens, I just find that it's such a groundbreaking web series.
Yeah.
And it's like it stands on its own. So it's like it's kind of weird to say, but I'm like, I feel like it feels almost like too easy in a way. I'm like, this is so I mean, the series itself, I was just like, I love it, and like to be recognized, I'm like, thank you. But yeah, it definitely feels it's interesting to get with, yeah, just feels very like lots of ease, and I'm like, something must be weird here. I'm not working too hard.
No, I think that's the way things go
Yeah.
sometimes, is
So
that it's just easy. I hear you, because just a
mhm.
quick story, David, like how I even got involved with Tokens was because of Connie. I ran into Connie on the street, and she was like, we're going to do Tokens, because I told you I already knew about the project. I was like, that's great. She's like, I think you'd be great as the makeup artist. I was like, okay. And then I just filed that away, and I did a reading at the Regent Park Film Festival put together by actor, actually. So we were reading scripts, and then after the reading, I saw Winnie. I was like, Winnie, I want to be in Tokens, and she was like, okay, like she was pretty open to it. She was like, I'm not doing a huge amount of like outside casting. Like, let's connect. Like, I'm serious, you're serious. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And then from there, season one, it's like my character was didn't have as big a role. And then they were really thinking about it, like Winnie and Trini, like in between seasons, were like, said, like, do you want to come back? Like, we're thinking of writing more for you. I was like, yes, I do. So like, it wasn't even like, as Connie said, we didn't have to like chop other people down, or like,
Right.
like to get cast in this. But Connie and I like have both been working for a while anyway.
Yeah.
So it just is like, that's happened in so many other aspects of our like lives as actors, the amount of auditions that we do that we're not chosen for, and the amount of things are passed over. Like, it just is like, it's hundreds. Like, if for me, like since I've had my agent in 2009, yeah, if you think about it, like it's like hundreds of things that I've auditioned for and haven't gotten. So, the universe gives you a break sometimes, and you just have to say yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, just going off of that, like the way that I think Tokens was even cast, I found that, I already knew that I was like leading it. So, and Winnie's very open, and she honestly is such an amazing collaborator. She's open for so many ideas, especially around casting and just like storylines. So, and I just like call her up and just start sharing. I'm like, I think this person's good. I think try this one. I was like, do you need assistance? Like, do you need any makeup artists? Like, just in general, just not even like for casting.
Mm.
I was happy to share and put all my my friends and like talented people forward. So now that I'm remembering, I'm like, oh yeah, like there was a lot of creation happening initially for sure, like foundationally. And then me putting forth ideas and like really vouching for like people in the industry that had a lot of respect for, like Sedna. So like when the opportunity came, I ran into her on the street and it was like, go, I'll talk to Vinny.
Oh yeah, totally. And it all aligned that way. You know what I mean? And yeah. And Winnie is so involved with trying to make changes in the industry, especially as a director, you know what I mean? Like, and a writer. And with Tokens, like she is trying to like walk the talk. And she does walk the talk. She's not trying, she walks the talk, you know, and so she's a wonderful collaborator, open for jokes, open for any number of suggestions of things. If it's right, you know, because of her years in the industry and the things that she's seen, and I think wanting to be a part of that change, you know. So Tokens being that, and then it also just being hilarious. It's just so great. Like we're all comedy people. We're all like ready for the funny, you know, like we're like, let's make people laugh. But yeah, Winnie and Trini are such like just key people to just make this whole thing come together, and their belief in the project and in the universe in its ways, saying yes to this funding, yes to this opportunity, yes to this, yes to that, and which affects us all. And I think that's something I think about as a producer as well. And I'm sure, Connie, you're thinking about this too. Like you have the opportunity to really help people in their careers, you know, as a producer. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. We shouldn't take it for granted, you know, like it's a great opportunity and responsibility. So just really thankful that the stars aligned in this way, and that, it wasn't, I didn't have to like, oh my gosh, I had to like push for to be a part of it. It was just like, actually, the door is open for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it definitely feels like the web space is leading the way in that, to sort of, I mean, I guess the right way to be put it, like, I mean, like you said, to bring the funny and to sort of make this inclusive space, to have actors who are doing really fantastic work, but maybe against the stereotypical type that the industry, you know, doesn't want to see or hasn't been seeing in the past. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm kind of curious for both of you, with something like this, is that what you're hoping the audiences will pull away from something like this? Not just the hilarity and the stories, but sort of the realities of, you know, having an East Asian woman being sort of hilarious as hell in a lead show, and I mean, and that kind of thing. Like, for you both, is that kind of the pull away at the end of the day for you with a show like Tokens?
Yeah, it is. I think it's great. I think that, I mean, it works on multiple levels, as good creative things should, you know, like it's definitely the people who are in the industry who are watching it. We hope that they understand, you know, how we can do better, you know, and that this sort of like check the box sort of thinking needs to evolve in a big way. And then yes, like casting Connie as the East Asian, and other East Asian folks as well, and other people of color in various kinds of leads,
course,
is just it's what should happen. I mean, to be honest, the web series space, as I said, there is funding available, and I think, not to get into the weeds too much, like inside baseball about the industry, but what I will say is that it's like since 2020, for sure, there's been a lot of pressure, and even before then, for the funders to just fund series that are a lot more inclusive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is a part of that, because it was a really white space before, you know what I mean, in terms of what was getting funded. Like if you go on the IPF website, sorry to call it out, but I will anyway. You know, if you go on the IPF website and look at, they put all the series that have ever been funded, and like a few of them, you know what I mean, feature someone like, if any, features someone like Connie in the leading role, or is like centering her story. There's a few, but not very many. So I feel like Tokens is really a part of that movement of just being like, we need to reflect, the screens need to reflect, you know, the demographics of Canada's major cities in a much bigger way.
Sure.
And the stories we have to tell on top of that are important and like impactful. So it's not even just about like, oh, we should be here. It's actually what we have to say is important too. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does though, because
okay.
Because I mean, on one end, while obviously the, you know, having an inclusive show like this is a fantastic thing, but I mean, at the end of the day, and what's important is that it's just so damn good. And I mean, I don't think I've ever said this about a web series, but I mean, I honestly hope there's a season 3.
Yeah. Thanks. And
I don't know if my character will be on it because of the way she left. But.
Yeah. There'll be a spinoff.
I like it. Spinoff. Do it.
Yeah, right. I think what makes tokens also so special is like, yes, for sure. Like there's the message of like, like having people, see that what's actually going on in the industry and making it funny and digestible to take in, like ticking boxes. But also I think it's just such an authentic story that is, written by Winnie, like an East Asian woman who was born in Canada, but like her parents are Chinese. And what's that like? So I think that's why it's so great, is because like it's not just inclusive and looks diverse.
Right.
It really it comes from the heart and you can feel it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time we watched season 2, we were at the theater and the episode 8 was done and I just started bawling because I was like, oh my gosh, I could see everyone, like the whole cast was just incredible and there was so much heart. And I was just a mess that day because it was my first time seeing it too. But I can feel the authenticity. It doesn't just look diverse on screen.
Yeah.
But on a deeper level, it's a really great story that really hits home.
110%, absolutely. But I mean, Connie, Sedina, just keep up the good work, and thank you so much for the time today.
Oh, thank you for having us.
And congrats on it all. Seriously, like I want more and more people to see the show. Really.
Yeah.
Me too.
We're on Roku TV and we're on Apple TV.
That's right. Roku, Apple. Go to the website. I'll put that in the link for sure. But again, thank you both for the time today, and congrats on the work.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, David.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.